Imagine it's February 2026, and Operation Epic Fury is in full swing. The old playbook is simple. Take out the head, and the body will collapse. But Iran had other plans. For decades, military strategy assumed that destroying a nation's central leadership would be enough to win the war. Iran watched this logic play out time and again, and quietly they began to rewrite the rules. They realized that centralization, once seen as a strength, was actually a critical weakness. This simple observation led to a new doctrine, so profound it's changing how we think about modern conflict. Because, in a world of precision strikes, Iran chose to make the entire battlefield the target. So how did Iran arrive at this strategy? Let's rewind to the early 2000s, as Iran's strategists closely watched the United States in Afghanistan and Iraq. They saw something crucial. When a central command was hit, the entire system crumbled. The collapse of the Iraqi military in 2003 is a perfect example. One strike, and thousands of troops were left leaderless. This led Iran's military thinkers, especially within the IRGC, to ask a dangerous question. What if we built a system that didn't need a head? While the Iran-Iraq War taught them the value of resilience through endurance, watching the U.S. campaigns taught them something more radical: survival through dispersion. By 2005, this idea had solidified into a new doctrine they called Mosaic Defense. Think of a mosaic. It's not one single image, but many small pieces forming a whole. If you remove a single piece, the overall image still holds its form. This became their strategic foundation, shifting from centralized control to distributed resilience. So how does this mosaic actually work on the ground? It's a complete overhaul of their military structure. The IRGC is no longer a single top-down command. Instead, it has been restructured into 31 autonomous units. While one unit coordinates, the other 30 are provincial commands, each empowered to make its own tactical decisions. Each of these provincial units has its own intelligence, its own weapons, stockpiles, and its own command structure. But the real genius is in their approach to succession planning. Every critical role has multiple designated successors, so if a commander is eliminated, the next in line steps up immediately. There's no leadership vacuum, and no operational paralysis. They operate on the principle of pre-delegated authority, meaning commanders are given broad guidelines but execute their missions independently. If communications go dark, they simply keep fighting based on their prior instructions. It's like having 31 independent actors who have all been briefed on the same mission, each one adapting to their local situation. As a result, there's no single point of failure to target. Now for the strategic twist that keeps military planners up at night. Iran's technological disadvantage has become its greatest strength. The United States and its allies rely on air superiority, precision weapons, and real-time intelligence, all massive advantages in traditional warfare. But Mosaic Defense isn't traditional. It completely flips the script. Instead of concentrating forces where they can be targeted, Iran disperses them and makes them autonomous, even if it means accepting less coordination. Why? Because eliminating a widely dispersed system costs exponentially more than taking out a centralized one. Think about the Strait of Hormuz. Iran doesn't need a massive navy to threaten it. They use a swarm of fast boats, coastal missiles, and mines, all operating semi-independently. You can't neutralize that threat with a single strike. You'd have to take out dozens of separate units spread across thousands of miles. This is a concept called cost asymmetry, where the cost for an adversary to eliminate the threat is far higher than Iran's cost to maintain it. Iran isn't trying to win a conventional war. They're trying to make the cost of winning so high that their adversary decides it's not worth playing. So what does Mosaic Defense tell us about the future of global conflict? First, it shows how nations without top-tier technology can still compete by changing the rules of the game itself. You don't have to match your adversary's strength. You can make their advantages irrelevant. Second, it proves that decentralization, a buzzword in the tech industry, has profound military implications. The same principles that make digital networks resilient can also make a military command structure nearly impossible to defeat. Third, it calls the entire strategy of precision warfare into question. If advanced militaries can't achieve a decisive victory against a dispersed opponent, the era of shock and awe may be coming to an end. Future conflicts may look more like wars of attrition, where endurance, dispersion, and the ability to impose costs matter far more than sheer firepower. The chessboard has changed, and the pieces are no longer in their traditional formations. The player who understands this new geometry is the one who will hold the advantage.